How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Okay, I want to get into this right off the bat here. And in starting this video out, I want to say that there isn't anything that I'm going to say in this video that's new. It's all been said before by different people in different avenues and venues of spirituality or spiritual discussions, whatever. But the difference with this particular video is it's going to be exactly the right time to say it. It's been said before, but now is exactly the right time to say it. And in order to kind of bring you up to speed on it, I just want to kind of make a quick review here for a moment or two. In the last few videos, you've heard me talk about everyone dealing with when they're at a certain point in their evolutionary process, they begin to deal with a lot of the core issues, and I'm really meaning deep core family, bloodline, soul group issues. And as some of you have clearly let me know, this is not a fun and game type of scenario. This is deep core, dirty work that's going into our family closets and skeletons, and we're digging out all of the dysfunctional patterns and the abuse of sexual energy and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I did a video on top of that where I mentioned about a new sheath body coming in to play for a lot of people. Now, keep in mind here, this is not all going to happen to everyone all at the same time. There are going to be spaces in between here, okay? It's going to be like one group and then another group and another group and another group. So one group shouldn't feel left out, or they're doing something wrong, or they're not equal, and all of the rest of that silly stuff that we have to go through to appease ourselves. It's going to happen in spaces for a lot of people. And that as the core issues were cleaned out, this sheath body coming down would then replace the disintegrating old etheric body, and the person and persons at that particular stage would begin downloading or templating into this new etheric body via that sheath body coming in. There are new personality traits, there are new mental traits, there are new uses of the emotional energy body. Now you'll note I said emotional energy body. I did not say emotional body that is loaded full of triggers, all right? One of the important things in this video is at this point, these people who have reached this point, or apex, if you will, should now be at the point where their emotional body has now become a reservoir. I love that word, reservoir of energy available to maintain 3D consciousness. I want to mention that part again. The emotional body, once it's cleared of all of its triggers and the rest of the core issues are gone, then becomes a reservoir of energy which can be used to maintain physicality in three-dimensional reality. Okay, stay with me here. This is going to get deeper. So as the person reaches that point, and as they begin to download their new personality with all of the ingredients. Now, what do I mean by new personality? Okay, I'll just give you a quick example again to repeat. The person would have acquired authenticity. They would have acquired leadership skills. They would have acquired very high degrees of intuition. They may have acquired other, I'm going to call them spiritual skills. and they would have acquired all of the finer traits of personality development: honesty, sincerity, integrity, all of those things, and there's more you can add in on top of them. They would have basically acquired all of those. Now, keep in mind that I am referring and talking to about an ascension process, all right? But I'm not talking about ascension in the old terms of the teachers 10, 20, and 30 years ago. I'm talking about a new type of ascension that is simplistic in nature and will vary from individual to individual. However, there are some general themes and stages that people will go through that are pretty much standard, with the variations according to the person. The emotional body, now having become a reservoir of energy, can be used to maintain physicality and three-dimensional reality according to the soul that is doing the evolving and the processing that's going on. Now, back to the situation at hand where the person is now downloading into that new etheric body, formerly the sheath body coming in, all of these traits of personality. Now, at this point, what happens is you literally now are I'm going to put it this way, and please do not take it the wrong way, you are now becoming a fit vehicle for the complete dissension of higher self as an energetic form, which is you at a superconscious level, at a oversoul level, whatever term you want to use. You are now a fit vehicle as a containment field for the total immersion of self, call it higher self, whatever term you want to use. So here's where we get into the area that I wanted to discuss about. As this descending into you higher self comes in, there are going to be some dramatic changes take place, and one of them is in regards to intake of liquid and intake of food. And I want everybody to understand this, that I'm not picking on any segment of the spiritual community in regards to food intake or dietary intake, or shall we say belief systems in regards to that. Such an example of that would be vegans, vegetarians, and any other type of diet form that people are using. What I want to say is this, and please listen to what I'm going to say here, and don't get your hackles up if it sounds like I'm stepping on your toes, because this is really important information and people do need to understand this. Okay, here we go. We now have your descending higher self coming in totally. The total, what's the word I'm looking for here? The total fit, or the total self of higher self, is coming in at an energetic level, okay? And it's integrating with your physical body. So therefore, what happens? Up until this point of this total descension of higher self, you were taking in foodstuffs, all right, according to belief systems, according to what your comfort zone was, or where you were at from an evolutionary point of view, from your personal conscious waking state awareness. Okay, now I want you to understand that. Everybody takes in their food right now, especially in the spiritual community, according to the nutrients, the vitamins, the ingredients of your biological structure as it is now, all right? And you base that on being a vegetarian, a vegan, or you're on some kind of food intake situation. And you have picked those foods based on your body needs, and you do that based on who you are at an individual level. So you make a lot of choices here, all right? What I want to add in now is now you have your higher self, your total higher self coming in, and this is going to happen in quite a few thousand people all at the same time here. So this video needs to reach the right ones, I hope. So as this total immersion of higher self comes in, and you will feel it, some of you have already felt it, and you've already started with the confusion that's going on. You need to understand something. The higher self does not consume food based on the fact of nutrition, vitamins, source of that protein, or whatever. Higher self requires light as food, as intake. If you were a breatharian, or you didn't eat and you lived on prana, you'd understand exactly what I'm talking about. But for most of us who are going through the ascension process, it isn't going to be that way. So this is a message from higher self that's been given to me that I want to pass on to you. And higher self told me that a lot of people are not going to like this. All right, they're going to argue it. All right, and that's fine. You do what you want. I'm the messenger. Don't shoot me. Okay. Well, you can hug me, but don't shoot me. Okay. All right. So this is what happens. So when higher self fully comes in and immerses into the physical body, higher self requires light frequency. So what this means is whatever you're eating now has to take in a double consideration, which is not only the nutritional content of the food, which supplements you at a conscious level and your body, you now have to have food that contains a substance of light in it that can actually help the, well, not help, but manifest the higher self on a permanent basis within the containment field of the vehicle, which is you. So therefore, what happens is some of you may have noticed that even though you have certain practices that of consuming foods, whatever they may be, from a vegetarian or a vegan point of view or others that are out there, you may notice yourself in conflict now at this particular point with some of the foods that you normally consume. They don't feel right anymore. Something's wrong. And you may find yourself with foods that you've gotten regularly accustomed to that fulfill your nutritional needs at whatever belief system or food intake is your program that you have. You're having indigestion problems. And you're having bowel problems. And you're having urinary problems. Okay? What's happening is higher self requires not only what you require in the food nutrient. You're not concerned about light content in the food. What you're concerned about is the nutrient, vitamin, protein, and the rest of it in your food content. But that's not enough anymore. Now your food intake must take into consideration how much frequency of light does it contain. To give you an example, and I'm going to give you a really stupid example, but it will make sense. And I'm going to use me as an example. I occasionally like a hamburger, all right, and French fries. Okay, every once in a while I do that. Okay, it's a male thing, all right. So if I go to one burger joint and buy a hamburger, and if I go to a different hamburger joint and I buy the same hamburger, it's the same ingredients, it's the same way they put it together, and I put the same stuff in both of them. And if I take Kilrian photography, and if I take a photograph of both of those hamburgers, yes, it's the same nutritional content, if any, if you want to call it that, and it's got the same ingredients, but it'll have two different frequencies of energy emanating from it. One energy is not suitable to me, the other one is. Now do you get what I'm talking about? Because before we thought of it only as taking care of supplying the nutrition, the proteins, and whatever else that we need in the body, we didn't take into consideration when the dissension of higher self comes in, that higher self needs light. Okay, so the change in menu that I'm going to title this video means that you're going to have to take a look at changing some of your foods. Now, am I suggesting to a vegan that you're going to have to go out and have a pork chop? No, let's not be ridiculous. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. What I am suggesting is for all of you is that you're going to have to compromise with yourself and understand that just because, for example, I'll use the vegan tradition for an example. Vegans can say to you, and justifiably so, that they can find whatever they need nutritionally in some form of plant-based food. And I agree, they can. However, the situation is now is that you need to take into consideration not just your physical needs, but you need to take into consideration how much light frequency does that particular food intake, nutritionally, protein, whatever else, how is it manifesting to supply what is required for higher self, as it were, to continue the light frequency buildup and get you to take that light frequency, the higher self, and begin to change the molecular and cellular structure of the very cells in your body, not just with nutrition anymore, but with a nutritional light frequency content to it. Now, I realize that there are other people that can talk about this and do it much more fancy than I can. I'm just a simple country boy, okay? I don't know nothing about the big guru type shit and the rest of the stuff that they all do. And I'm not a Merkaba body fan, all right? And all of the rest of that stuff that it is so much bells and whistles around it, you can't think. And that's not a criticism, it's just an observation. So what I'm saying to you is this is exactly the right time for this video. And there's nothing new in it. Well, that's not true. There's a couple of things that are new in it, especially the emotional body, and all the triggers are gone, and now you can use it for maintaining physicality. That is new. Anyways, moving on. So anyways, what I'm saying to all of you is when you find yourself and you have your usual protein and nutritional intake, and you find it's not working for you, it feels off, and you develop indigestion or stomach problems or bowel problems or even urinary problems, and it doesn't matter what age you are. Okay, this is not an old folks type of thing here. I have already spoken to quite a few people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. I have a very cosmopolitan view of contacts around the world that I respect their judgment, and because of their evolutionary growth, I know what they tell me is reliable and it's clear. So I have that experience of them and also the experience of myself. So what needs to be taken into consideration at this point? If you have that kind of a situation going on, you know that you've had the experience of going through the core stuff, and you've brought in that sheet body that I talked about, you've transitioned or transferred into it all of your new personality traits, and you've now had the experience of the higher self with a total immersion coming down. Now you need to be mindful even more so of the food intake, because what's going to happen here is this: the digestive system is becoming very, very important in all of you, and I'll explain to you why. Higher self coming in requires what I'm talking about to help you with the cellular and molecular changes in your body so it becomes even more less dense. But also, going forward down the road, the only way that you as a person, as someone who is ascending, can evolve to the point where you don't require solid food anymore is you need higher self to go through this process with you to make that switch and changeover. Do you understand what I'm saying to you now and the importance of it? This is one of my most important videos, in my opinion. If you shortchange yourself and stick to your belief system and resist, you're actually going to stop and actually throw your progress backwards, believe it or not, all right? This is a crucial, crucial, crucial time in everyone's evolutionary spiritual growth. This is where that transition, okay, can take place. Why? Because finally the biggest majority of you will, maybe not the biggest majority, but a very big potful of you, have reached a point where you don't have any more triggers in the emotional body, and it can be used, the emotional energy, for three-dimensional physicality. And also, the emotional center is in the solar plexus. The solar plexus is where the stomach is, and the intestinal tract as a whole. So therefore, now this change can happen with the higher self coming in. Until people have reached that point where the triggers have been removed from the emotional body, they are not there yet, okay? And I don't care how much light you think you carry or how far you think you are down the path. As long as you have triggers in the emotional body and someone can hit your buttons, you've got a way to go yet, okay? When someone can say something directly to you and insulting and rude, and it doesn't fizzle on you, hey, you're on your way to a home run. So when the higher self comes in, this is why I'm saying the light frequency of the food intake that you had before might not, and probably will not in some cases, be enough for the higher self to begin to initiate the changeover from solid food going in to developing the intestinal and the stomach and the appropriate bowel changes to go to a frequency of no food at all. Am I making sense to all of you here? Okay. So this is crucial at this time, that if you are having indigestion, you're having stomach problems, and your food intake that you've been doing has become habitual, or you change it every once in a while, as soon as you know you picked the right food, you're going to know it, all right? The other way that will happen, your intuition will tell you what you need to do, and sometimes your belief systems will prevent you from doing it, okay? And this is very important that you trust your intuition and follow your intuition what foods that higher self wants you to intake. Now, you can have all of the right protein, the right nutrients, and the right thing in 3 or 4 different kinds of food, nutritionally, for your physical body. Nutritionally, it doesn't manifest the right light frequency for higher self to use to modify again the molecular and cellular structure, not to mention activate the DNA within you that needs to be activated properly. So there's a lot going on here, and I can tell you something, this. Higher self, your higher self descended into you, is not going to sit there and answer 10,000 questions from you. It's going to give you intuition of what it requires. It's going to give it to you in the dream state. It may even say it to you right in your head, or you just may intuitively know. And that's all the only way the higher self is not going to sit there and answer 10,000 questions about everything that you're doing, everything that's happening. It doesn't have time, and it isn't going to do it. And if you can't follow the intuition and the guidance and the input, especially when it comes to food intake, you and higher self are not going to be together for a long time. What will have to happen if you cannot comply based on belief systems or habitual food intake substance that you take in, then higher self will pull away until you go through the situation as such, so you're actually delaying your process as you continue on, okay? Now, I'm going to stop there, and I want to re-emphasize there's nothing new here. All of this information, with the exception of the emotional body that I threw in, all right? And this has been talked about 10, 20 years ago in different ascension and groups and whatever. But now is the time it's now happening. It is now happening on the planet because of the things I mentioned, dealing with the core stuff, bringing in the sheath body, which becomes the new etheric body, all right? and the new sheaths within the etheric body get downloaded and templated at this point with the new personality. And now the higher self is making a full and complete descension into the physical embodiment. And the nutritional requirements of individuals are going to change dramatically, and they need to be taken into consideration. My hope is that even if you don't like me, that you will listen to the video and listen to it with the idea that I'm only presenting the information again to assist you now, because now is exactly the right time. This is now happening on the planet. And I don't know about anybody out there, okay, but I have watched over the years, I've been here a long time, watching and been involved in the spiritual community. But the one thing that I see is people in the spiritual community going through the same thing year after year after year after year, and doing the same mistakes when they don't need to. And some people will say, well, that's their journey to go and do that. That is the stupidest saying I've ever heard, because it's totally unnecessary for someone to go out and make the same mistake over and over, generation after generation, any longer. We're so far beyond that, it's not even funny. Okay? The best of luck to all of you, and I want you to know that I still have a hamburger once in a while, but I have a special place I go to get it because it has the right light frequency for me, that hamburger. Okay? Consider what I've said. Pay attention to your body. It needs the right light frequency now, along with the food intake. So when you're choosing food, you need to consider, does this have the right light frequency for higher self? And if there's any doubt, ask higher self. Higher self will let you know. It's that simple. Have a great day, everybody.